Imagine sitting in your car, earbuds in, lost in a voice that feels like it's speaking directly to you. Maybe it's a crime story unraveling, clue by clue. Maybe it's a conversation that feels like eavesdropping on genius. Or maybe it's just someone, somewhere, talking, and somehow it feels intimate, global, and infinite, all at once. That's the magic of podcasts. They become our modern campfires, places where stories, ideas, and emotions are shared across invisible airwaves. But where did they come from? How did a simple audio file become one of the most powerful storytelling formats in human history? To find the answer, we have to rewind way before Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or even the internet itself, to the very dawn of recorded sound. Our journey begins in the 19th century with a man named Thomas Edison. In 1877, Edison introduced the phonograph, a device that could record and replay sound using wax cylinders. When he first demonstrated it, people were stunned. For the first time, the human voice could outlive the moment it was spoken. Edison himself thought the phonograph's main purpose would be business dictation, not music or storytelling, but others saw its potential. By the early 1900s, families were gathering around phonographs to listen to recorded speeches, comedy routines, and dramatic performances. It was, in essence, on-demand audio, more than a century before the word podcast was coined. Then came radio, and the world changed forever. In the early 1920s, as radio stations began broadcasting to the masses, the spoken word became a global phenomenon. For the first time, one voice could reach millions simultaneously. People tuned into news, serial dramas, and live music, but most of all, two voices. The radio wasn't just a technology, it was a companion, especially during times of crisis like the Great Depression and World War II. Programs like The Shadow and War of the Worlds blurred the line between fiction and reality. When Orson Welles aired his 1938 dramatization of an alien invasion, some listeners panicked, believing Earth was truly under attack. That broadcast revealed something extraordinary. Sound alone could control imagination and even emotion in ways images never could. Fast forward to the late 20th century. Radio was still powerful, but it was linear. You listened live, or you missed it. There was no pause, no replay, no personalization. Meanwhile, a quiet revolution was brewing in the digital world. As the internet began connecting people across the globe, a new idea emerged. What if radio could be freed from schedules? What if you could download your favorite shows and listen anytime, anywhere? In the late 1990s, two major inventions paved the way: RSS really simple syndication and the MP3 file. RSS allowed automatic updates from websites, and MP3 compression made large audio files small enough to download. Together, they became the DNA of podcasting. The spark came in 2004 when Adam Curry, a former MTV, and Dave Weiner, a software developer, created a way to automatically download audio files to portable music players, particularly Apple's iPod. Curry called the process iPod broadcasting. Then, journalist Ben Hammersley, writing for The Guardian, casually coined a new word: podcast, a fusion of iPod and broadcast. The name stuck, and a global movement was born. At first, podcasting was raw and underground. Hobbyists recorded shows in basements, closets, and coffee shops. The topics were wildly diverse, from tech reviews to personal diaries to experimental sound. There were no rules, no gatekeepers, and no advertising models. It was the Wild West of digital audio, a space where authenticity mattered more than polish. But something powerful was happening beneath the surface: the intimacy of podcasting. That feeling of a voice whispering directly into your ear was transforming how people consumed information. Listeners weren't passive anymore. They were participants. Podcasts created communities, fandoms, and cult followings. By the late 2000s, the format began to explode. Apple added podcast support to iTunes in 2005, and suddenly, millions had easy access. Shows like This American Life brought storytelling finesse from radio into the digital age, while The Ricky Gervais Show became one of the first mega hits, reaching millions of downloads per episode. Then, in 2014, one show changed everything. Serial, a spin-off from This American Life. It followed the true story of a murder case, episode by episode, week by week. The world was hooked. Serial turned podcasting from a niche hobby into a mainstream obsession. It had cliffhangers, investigations, and a narrative so gripping that listeners began doing their own detective work online. For the first time, podcasts weren't just entertainment, they were events. After Serial, the floodgates opened. Everyone, from journalists to comedians to teachers, wanted a piece of the microphone. The podcasting boom had begun, but the secret to its success wasn't technology, it was psychology. Humans are wired for storytelling. Long before writing, we shared knowledge through spoken tales around fires. Our brains respond to voice, to tone, rhythm, and emotion in ways that written words can't replicate. When we listen to someone speak, our neurons mirror their emotions, creating a sense of empathy and connection. Psychologists call this neurocoupling. That's why listening to a good podcast can feel like a conversation, even when you are completely alone. This emotional chemistry is what sets podcasts apart. They don't demand your full attention like video does. You can listen while driving, cooking, or walking, which means podcasts slip seamlessly into daily life. They become companions, background friends, mentors in your pocket. In a lonely, digital world, that voice in your ear feels grounding, almost human. But as podcasts grew in popularity, they also began reshaping culture and business. By the late 2010s, major companies like Spotify, Amazon, and Google entered the arena. Spotify's acquisition of Gimlet Media and the Joe Rogan Experience for hundreds of millions signaled a new era. Podcasting had become a serious industry. Celebrities, brands, and even politicians joined the wave, turning podcasts into platforms for influence, not just storytelling. Yet, beneath the corporate noise, something beautifully democratic remains. Unlike television or film, anyone with a microphone can still make a podcast. The barrier to entry is low. Creativity is the only currency. That's why the medium continues to thrive. It rewards authenticity over perfection. But here is the twist most people don't see. The story of podcasting is actually a story about freedom. It's the latest chapter in humanity's endless quest to share stories without censorship, boundaries, or intermediaries. From cave paintings to printing presses to radio and now podcasts. Each step has been about one thing: the right to be heard. And that freedom is what makes the format so revolutionary. A student in Nairobi, a teacher in Tokyo, or a mother in Mexico City can all create a podcast and reach the world. That's never been possible before in human history. Now, we're entering the next phase, the age of immersive audio. With AI narration, spatial sound, and interactive storytelling, podcasts are evolving beyond simple voice recordings. Some are now AI personalized. They adapt to your mood, your interests, even your voice. The line between creator and listener is blurring, just as it did between writer and reader centuries ago. But amid all that innovation, the heart of podcasting hasn't changed. It's still about connection, about the human voice carrying across time and space, bridging loneliness and sparking imagination. When you strip away the technology, the apps, the subscriptions, the analytics, what remains is something profoundly ancient. The sound of one person speaking and another listening. So, the next time you press play on your favorite podcast, remember, you're participating in a ritual older than civilization itself. You rejoining a lineage of storytellers that stretches back tens of thousands of years from tribal firesides to modern headphones. And maybe that's the true secret of podcasting's power. It's not just entertainment, it's humanity, distilled into sound. Flashback Facts. Uncovering the voices that shaped our world.